Well, outrage is growing today in the gruesome death of a man crushed by a speeding New York City subway train. New witness accounts reveal more than a dozen commuters stood by and watched as it happened. First, as the victim argued with the man who is said to have pushed him onto the tracks. And then as the victim struggled to get back up on the platform moments before his life was taken. Folks asking now, why? Why did no one try to help the man get off of the tracks in the time he had before he perished? Here to help us with a possible explanation, Dr. Keith Abloh, a psychiatrist and member of our Fox News Medical A-Team. Doc, welcome back to the program.
Hey, Megan.
So there were about 22 seconds, they say, from the time the man went down, was pushed down onto the tracks, and the time he was hit by the train. And folks are asking the photographer who took the photo of those last few moments and wondering about the people who stood on the platform and did not reach down and offer a hand or anything to try to help him. Your thoughts on it?
Well, people are known to not do very well when they're in a group and someone is called upon to be heroic. We do less well as a group, this bystander effect, which has been well known for decades since Kitty Genovese was brutally attacked and people heard her screams from apartments surrounding the area where she was attacked, didn't come out, didn't even call police in time. And so we know that people act like a chain. Breaking a link off that chain is difficult because everybody's looking at everyone else thinking that there must be some reservoir of knowledge about why no one's acting. To declare oneself a leader and heroic is harder than you think in a moment of tragedy or conflict. And it says something also about human beings and whether they're willing to raise their hands and disagree with a group. We're really reticent as human beings to do that. And when nobody's moving, it feels like a group decision. When it isn't that, it's just the paralysis of this bystander effect.
That's the thing, the paralysis. And they talk about this. There was a book that came out a couple years ago about survivors and talked about how we think about when an airplane goes down, people would be madly dashing towards the exits, you know, if they thought they had a way of getting out. But the facts show the opposite. The facts show normally people sit there paralyzed in stone because they've never dealt with this situation before. They don't know what to do. So are the critics being too hard on the people who were standing on a subway platform, just trying to catch a train one second and the next in a life or death situation, and watching a man who really was in a life or death situation the next?
I think, look, the critics may be tough on these folks because we know that this is an effect that exists psychologically, but certainly human beings can aspire to better. I think we have to at least look at these events and say, look, you know what? Don't just be like a piece of Velcro sticking to the crowd, because culturally and societally, this has tremendous implications. If nobody will reach down to save a single man's life who is going to be crushed by an oncoming train, who among us will lead at times of desperate need in our nation, for instance? Who's going to raise their hand to say, I'll take the hit here? I'll do that.
But let me ask you this.
Needs to be done right now.
Let me ask you this. The reports were that the victim here, the man who'd been pushed onto the train tracks, had been drinking. And there's this altercation that he had between, the perpetrator and himself. And I don't know. You know how it is in the New York City subway. You know, it's eyes down, don't make eye contact, don't talk, stay to the back. And you see these two loud gentlemen having a confrontation, and one, I don't know whether he was visibly drunk or not. Next second, he's down on the tracks. You'd have to worry a bit about, is he going to pull me down there too? I don't know who this man is, how he got down there exactly, what just happened between those two guys.
Yes. Listen, that doesn't help matters, but we know from other circumstances that people will walk by someone who's been hit on a busy street by a car. They'll just keep walking if everybody else is. So I think this is, by the way, teachable. I think you can teach kids, whether in school or at home, don't do that, so that they're prepared to act at times of need and potentially to save a life. Don't forget, people also, and this is a terrible commentary on where we're at technologically, they were mostly moved to take pictures of this with their cell phones and maybe post it up on Facebook. Well, what I make of that is that we're lost in technology. It's a dehumanizing influence. the impact of reality TV and Facebook and iPhones is that we are essentially ripped from the bindings of our own real existences, and we become fictional characters and minor producers walking around chronicling a fake set of events when real life is passing us by. That's what's happening.
Do you think folks have been too hard on the photographer who said he claims that he was trying to use the flash on his camera to somehow alert the train driver, whether he was actually doing that or documenting the incident and now feels guilty about doing that? I don't know what the truth is. But either way,
I don't think
are people being too tough on him?
I think he's a photographer. Yeah, look, I mean, if anybody, he says, first of all, he was further away than the other people. Secondly, he's a photographer, you know. He is one. That's what he does. I mean, of all people, if he's moving toward the scene and it's this gripping, you know, that's what a photographer does. He takes pictures. He's a journalist. He was there dispatched by a newspaper for another event. But least of all people there, would you expect him to break stride with everything he knows in his entire existence and suddenly throw his camera aside and race past everyone, many of whom were, you know, closer than he, to rescue this man. So I think, yes, people are being particularly tough, and the image has value because otherwise we might not have been talking about it right now, that people need to stand up.
Chad Lindsay is a guy who saw a man fall on the tracks at Penn Station back in 2009, and he leapt down to help him. And he has come out defending this photographer, saying the shot is misleading. It's a still shot, and everything you think about those tracks is wrong. It's the depth, how massive they are, how scary they are. You don't realize the danger that awaits you if you want to jump down there. So he has come to his defense, and obviously the only man really responsible for what has happened here is the man who pushed the victim. Dr. Abloh, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Megan. Take